This is a webinar titled OPC Tunneling, and today is Thursday, March 12th. In this webinar, we will talk about the problem we're actually trying to solve and the solution to it, and then I will show you an actual demonstration with a tunnel connection where we will connect an OPC server, we will turn the firewall on, we'll show communication failures, and we'll show communication with the tunnel. Let's get going here. So OPC Classic uses Decom. Now Decom actually provides a very reliable and secure data transportation mechanism. That's the good news. Decom is very reliable and very secure. Decom is reliable. It provides automatic reconnections. It provides a message queue. It's also very secure. It provides encryption, authentication, authorization features, and more. There are actually a lot more features for reliability and for security. It is actually very reliable and secure. It's also been around for many years. It's been around since 1996, actually. And today, there are tens of thousands of applications that are using Decom today outside the world of OPC. If you've used Microsoft Office applications like Word and Excel or PowerPoint, they're all COM applications. If you've configured Windows Firewall, you've used Decom. If you've used Google components for web searches, those you will find in Decom config. You'll find LogMeIn. You'll find Norton Ghost. If you take a look at Decom config, you'll find a whole bunch of applications that you perhaps didn't expect to see as Decom applications, and yet there they are. So there are tens of thousands of applications that are using Decom outside the world of OPC. So that all sounds good. Well, what's the problem? Well, remember I said that the Decom was very secure, and that's a very good thing, but unfortunately that security needs to be configured. So configuring Decom is sometimes confusing for people that don't have training. And in fact, OPC Training Institute was founded on the basis of we need to train people on Decom and on Decom configuration. So how to set up for a firewall configuration, how to get two computers to communicate with each other across domains, how do we block applications, how do we only allow specific users to come in. All of that is in our OPC and Decom classes. So we show people how to do this, and if you don't know, you will have a problem. But that is the very first problem. Again, the security needs to be configured. Second problem, I talked about reliability, is that because of the reliability that's built into Decom, many automation products just don't handle Decom behavior very elegantly when it comes to timeouts or error conditions or communication loss. There is communication loss, and Decom does have automated reconnections, but that's not necessarily good enough for automation applications. It might be good enough for office applications, for IT applications, but not for real-time automation applications. So their applications very frequently suffer from timeouts because they don't take care of this. Error conditions, communication loss, they show errors that are perhaps misleading or unhelpful. Like, for example, could not connect to OPC server. Call the system administrator. Well, thank you very much. I am the system administrator and I don't know what to do. So unless you give me good error messages, I really have no clue what to do. And there's a lot of misinformation out there that just stops people from looking for better solutions. So these are the main problems with Decom. Now, what are the Decom failures? Well, we see two different kinds of Decom failures. The first is it doesn't work. It doesn't work in the first place. I can't get it to work. The second is that it works and then it stops. So when it comes to the it doesn't work category, we see errors like this, 0x8, 004, 0154, or any of these errors. These just prevent your applications from starting up in the first place or from making that very first connection. The second class is that it works and it stops. And that's where we see errors like 0x8, 004, 0005. You may have seen these errors. We have videos on how to get going when you do have these errors. But those are the two classes. It doesn't work in the first place, or it does work and then it stops working. And people have these issues. Now, what are the causes? The typical causes, well, number one, firewalls. Firewalls are very, very common. They come up, they block your communication, user accounts, prevent people from getting access when they should. Poor Decom configuration. When the applications aren't configured for Decom, either by IT or by the programmers, there is going to be a problem. And of course, communication across Windows domains and workgroups. Usually Decom works very, very well when you're on one domain. But the problems occur when we're going from a domain to a workgroup, or between two different domains or from different workgroups. That's when we start to have problems with authorization and authentication. And of course, let's not forget the programmers with their poor application design, where you might have incomplete feature implementation. They just don't necessarily finish the implementation of their features in the actual programs properly. They don't have automated reconnections. Again, the error messages might actually be misleading altogether. What we're looking for is a way to normalize applications, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So, OPC and the tunnel. What are we talking about here? Now, before I get into the tunnel, I just want to point this out. Our recommendation is to use Decom whenever possible. So whenever possible, just use pure Decom. But consider tunneling only in the few cases where Decom is not appropriate. In other words, tunneling is not a solution for everything. If you can get communication working just with plain Decom, please go ahead and do that. But tunneling is only for the cases where you just can't get it figured out. OPC is a communication standard, but Decom just scares people. And there are alternatives to Decom. There are a whole bunch of proprietary alternatives. Now, here is what we're talking about. So the idea, for example, is let's talk about a phone as an example. The standard for a phone is that my voice goes into the phone. It goes across the network over to your phone. How? I don't know, some magic. And then voice comes out on your end. And similarly, when you talk to me, your voice goes into the phone and comes out at my end. But how does a phone network actually operate? I don't know. I really don't know. It's magic in the middle. But the whole point is I don't have to know. I just need to know that my voice goes in, my voice comes out at the other end. Your voice comes in at your end, comes out at my end. So voice in and voice out. Similarly, a tunnel, it's OPC in and OPC out. How does it work in the middle? I don't know. That's the whole point of the tunnel. It takes care of those details. It's kind of like a VPN, if you will, for OPC. So here is the architecture. So we have a client on one PC. So we see it on the PC on the left. And we have a server on the PC on the right. Now, these guys are connected to each other via OPC and Decom. And if you can get this connection working, fantastic. Go ahead and do that. You do not need to tunnel. If it doesn't work, though, what you can do is put in a tunnel. So the idea is that you connect locally with the tunnel. So you see a local OPC connection. And typically tunnels use a proprietary protocol in between the tunnels. Now, proprietary, meaning that you're now stuck with this vendor. That's not typically a good thing, but it was a solution in the past. Well, we'll take a look at one particular tunnel here done by OPC Expert that does not use anything proprietary, uses standards only. So the idea is, just like the regular tunnel or the old tunnels, it's OPC in, OPC out, OPC in this way, OPC out this way. In the middle is OPC UA over a single port. In this case, the port is 57888, just one port. So the idea is that if this doesn't work, you can go this way here with the tunnel. Now, let's just talk about that a moment. Number one, using standards only. So OPC in, OPC out, that's one standard. OPC UA is another standard. It's also very easy because it uses only one port. So when it comes to your firewall configuration, you only have one port to configure. It's very secure. It uses OPC UA security, which is, of course, very secure with authentication, authorization, encryption, and so on. It's very reliable. It's got auto recovery, which I'll show you in just a little bit. It can run as a Windows service, which means that you get an automatic startup. It can use the system account, and it's monitored by Windows. Now, you don't have to run it as a service, and I'll get back to that later on. It's very important because OPC Expert actually runs without any installation, which I will show you in just a little bit. So again, runs as a Windows, it can run as a Windows service. Now, what else can we do with this? Well, number one, you can use it as a debugger. So when we go on site or when we do troubleshooting for people, sometimes what you have is one vendor over here, one vendor over here, a client vendor, server vendor. You try to make this OPC Decom connection, you have a problem. And so now the client people say, oh, it's the server people. The server people say, no, 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 it's not us, it's the client people. Of course, everybody's pointing their finger at IT saying, no, no, maybe it's a network. So you really, as a user, don't know where to go from there because everybody's pointing a finger at everybody else anywhere other than themselves. So the idea for the debugger, which is where you can use this, is if this isn't working for some reason or it stops working, put in this tunnel. OPC Expert's tunnel actually does a whole bunch of logging, so you can very easily see is the problem with the OPC server. So when you make this connection over here, you can see is the problem with the server? It's a local connection. Is it with the client maybe? Maybe it's with the network. Maybe the network went down for a little bit and then came back. Maybe that's why you have disconnections. Maybe an application crashed. Maybe that's why you have the disconnections. But the logging will actually show you what it is, and it's terrific as a debugger. We use it all the time. It's also a converter. This is really interesting here because what you see is this is an OPC connection. So in this case, this guy here is actually an OPC client to this server, and it converts to UA. It's actually an OPC UA server. So it's OPC in, OPC classic in, OPC UA out. This one here works the other way. It's OPC UA in, and then OPC UA out. So it's really a converter. What that means is that if you have a UA server over here, this OPC classic client can talk to a UA server here via this one. You're using a half tunnel. So you don't need two OPC experts, you only need one. So it's OPC client to OPC expert via UA across network to a UA server. So this one here converts from OPC UA to OPC DA. This one here converts from OPC DA, OPC DA server. If you have a UA client over here, you can just put this one on and it converts from OPC DA to OPC UA. And that way you can marry the old applications and the new applications. So it works very, very well as a converter. In fact, this pair right here, what they're doing is OPC in to UA and then UA back to OPC. So it converts both ways. And it acts as a normalizer. And what I mean by that is sometimes you have servers that aren't compliant. Well, OPC Expert, we've had a huge number of connections over the years, and we've built it such that it connects to non-compliant servers that behave a little bit differently. For example, you write to a server says the write succeeds, but it didn't. So this OPC Expert will verify the read before it says it succeeded. So it can make bad servers good. Maybe you have a client that insists on polling. Well, OPC Expert will convert that polling if you need to. It will actually convert it to a subscription. So it makes it much, much easier for people to get their applications working. It's a normalizer. When you have a bad application, this one here will convert it, in essence, such that the other application will see a normal OPC server or a normal OPC client, and in that way it adds functionality. For example, another one here, maybe this client doesn't automatically reconnect. Well, that's okay, because if there's a network fault over here, this guy will reconnect automatically. So you get automated reconnections. And as a result, it enhances the existing functions as well. Now, what I'll do is a quick demonstration here to show you how this works. So I've got a client and a server. Of course, we tried to make an OPC, a Decom connection, and that is, if that works, great. We don't need a tunnel, but it's not going to work, obviously. So we're going to need a tunnel. So I'll show you what it takes to put in the tunnel. We'll make these local connections. Notice these are local, and there is an OPC connection, an OPC UA connection in the middle. It's going to be invisible. We'll also put on another server. In fact, we'll have 3 servers. We'll have 3 clients connected, and you'll see 3 clients talking to 3 servers across only 1 port, all done at exactly the same time. So let's take a look at how this actually works. So what I'll do, got a couple of PCs here. There we go. So we got a couple of PCs, and there we go. So there is my client computer, and this guy here is my server computer. And I'll make this a little bit bigger when we need to. So this is called OPC 01, as you can see here. I guess I'll make it bigger now. This one here is OPC 02. So that the server is going to be here. The client is over here. Just make it smaller again. And if you're wondering how I'm resizing it like this, this is just remote desktop. Okay. So first, I'll use OPC Quick Client, and I'm using OPC Quick Client. This one is made by Kepware, and I'm using it very specifically because many of you have used it in the past, so I don't really have to go over it too much. What we see are 2 local OPC servers, one by Kepware, the other one by Iconics. And I will go to the remote machine. So I'm going to Microsoft Windows Network, so here I go. Hopefully it'll find it fairly quick. There we go, we found it. There's OPC 02. Now, when I try to open it, oh no, I can't open it. Why? Why doesn't it open? Don't know. So we can see that it just does not open. So therefore, we cannot get a connection to OPC 02. We just can't make that remote connection. We'll try it with OPC Rescue and see what happens here. Once again, with OPC Rescue, we see 2 local OPC servers. When we go to the network, there we go. There's OPC 02. We try and open it, and we can't. Now, OPC Rescue actually tells us, oh, yeah, you have this error, 0x8, 007, 0005, goes through and explains what it thinks the cause is, possible causes, how to fix it. You can go through it if you want. But what we can see right now is we cannot make a connection. So let's try it with OPC Expert. Now, just before I run OPC Expert, I want you to see this. The only thing you're getting with OPC Expert, the only thing you need is 1 executable. So there's 1 executable here. That's it. I'm going to run this, and OPC Expert will extract everything it needs. So again, there is no installation. You just run it. You can see OPC Expert created files. So it extracted the files. There they are. So when you're done, if you don't want OPC Expert anymore, you just delete. That's all you need to do. All right, so here, once again, we'll open up this computer, and we see 2 OPC servers. We'll open up entire network, OPC TI, and we'll try connecting to OPC 02. Of course, OPC Expert has no magic. It can't connect either. It's telling us there's the error that it got. It tells us that it's got an error. You can see it also found 2 OPC UA servers. There's a Kepware OPC UA server and an OPC Expert UA server. So I've got 4 OPC servers here. DA, this one is DA, and these 2 are UA. All right, so we can't make a connection. What that means is we're now going to start the tunnel. So let me just show you where we are. So we were on this computer. We tried this connection over here. This didn't work. So we're going to connect, we'll have to start this OPC Expert here. So I will do that. Here's the other computer. And once again on this one as well, open file location. there's OPC Expert. You notice, again, just an executable. There's no installation, no changes to Windows registry. Very important. Start up OPC Expert, and just like before, we can see very briefly, files are extracted, OPC Expert will start. There it goes. So it started, didn't make any registry changes. There's OPC Expert, and you can see, and by the way, no magic tricks here, March 12th, and this is my local time right here. I'm on Mountain Time. So no magic here. This is, those of you that are watching it live can actually see this. All right, and by the way, keep your questions coming on the webinar, and go to webinar, and I will handle them as they come in. All right, so here's OPC Expert running. I will make this smaller again. So make this smaller. There we go. Okay, so now we will get to, so here's what I'm going to do. Back on the client computer, I'm going to set up my tunnel. So I will import OPC servers. Here we go. It found 3 OPC servers on the remote PC. You can see there's a Kepware server, Matricon server, and a Modbus server. All I do is just say, okay. And what you'll see is, we're going to rebrowse, and we see 3 new OPC servers. These ones right here, and I'll just make this a little bit longer. Here we go, wider. So we can see there's a Kepware server on OPC02, Matricon server on OPC02, and there's a Modbus server on OPC02. So all 3 of these are actually on the remote PC. And I'll actually make a connection to all 3 of them. There we go. All right, so we made that connection. Let me just subscribe to a few items. I'll make this smaller so to give us more room. So there we go. Getting some from Kepware, from the Kepware server. You can see the data is changing. Should really go to Matricon in here, random. We'll go to Modbus, go numeric. We can subscribe to some items. Here we go. So I'm subscribed to 3 different servers. You can see Kepware, Matricon, Modbus, and they were not on this computer. Just make it a little bit smaller so you can see it better. So you can see the different data types. They're all coming in properly. So there we go. So everything is coming in properly. We can see the quality. Looks like it's all good. Data is coming in. So I'm now connected to 3 different OPC servers. So my one client is connected to 3 different OPC servers. Let's go back to OPC Rescue over here, and you remember that there were only 2 OPC servers locally. Again, we can't find anything on OPC02, of course, because of the error. But if I right-click this computer and rebrowse, now instead of 2 OPC servers, I've got 5. And you can see there is the Matricon server on OPC02, the Kepware server on OPC02, and the Modbus server on OPC02. I'll connect to Kepware over here. Factory, OPC TI, and I can see data coming in. So I can see information coming in already. So there we go. I'll just put this on the side down here so you can see the data updates. Finally, I'll go back to OPC Quick Client. Remember, we had 2 OPC servers before. I can't rebrowse. I'm just going to, there we go. Try to connect again. And sure enough, here are the 3 new OPC servers on OPC02. So I'll connect to Kepware on OPC02. Click OK. You can see the address space is exactly the same. Add leaves. Okay. And here are all of the data types coming in. We can see the time. Everything's okay. If I want to change my update rate, properties, and instead of every second, I'll make it 100. And sure enough, there we see the data, and it's coming in faster this time. There we go. Okay, so we can see 3 different OPC client applications. One, OPC Expert, OPC Quick Client, and there's OPC Rescue, all connected to the same OPC servers. Now, when I go back to here. Okay. Let me kill the Kepware server just so you see what's going on. So I'll go to Task Manager. And I'll go to my Kepware server. And that is called server runtime. So there's server runtime. I'm going to kill it. Watch what happens on this computer. So this is the client computer. Watch what happens. You can see the automated recovery and process. So it died. You can see that the data update stopped over here. Flow and instrument both are coming from Kepware. This guy lost everything. You can see it's bad. This one is showing red. Nothing in OPC Rescue. Everything's showing bad. But we can see that server underscore runtime, there it is. Started again. And the data resumes. So there it is. Data resumes automatically, even in OPC Quick Client, which, as you know, if you lose a server connection, typically there is no automated reconnection. But sure enough, we are getting an automatic reconnection. It even showed you that the quality was bad. So there we go. So we're connected 3 different OPC clients to the Kepware server. You can connect. There is the Modbus server right there, and the Matricon server. So there we have it. Now, one question. Okay, Jim, I see you are asking a question about registry changes. Now, remember, on this computer over here, I'm not running OPC Expert. I'm not running OPC Expert as a service. So there were no changes over here. In fact, if we go to OPC Expert, you can see that it's running as admin. I could run, so the way I'm running it right now, it's in interactive mode, which means there are no registry changes whatsoever. Now I could run it as a service, and if I run it as a service, obviously it's got to be registered. So that will make a change. But you can run it as a service like this, or you can go to the OPC servers and run it as a service over here. You can take a look at the configuration itself. So there you go. You can take a look and see what there is. But feel free to play around when you download it. But right now, it's not running as a service, so there were no changes here. On the client computer, on the other hand, when we did the import, when we imported the OPC servers, it brought them all in as OPC servers. So here we can see them. It's already set up as the system account, OPC Expert Data Server. And no, I no longer need to run OPC Expert on this computer. So there it is. I'm closing it, and it went away. And you can see that the data is still coming in. Comes in just fine. And we don't need anything. Now, when it comes to the firewall, I can go to the firewall. Go Windows. There we go. Took a little bit for Windows. So turn Windows Defender Firewall on. So we'll turn it on. And what you see is that even when it's turned on, we still have our connections. And why? As soon as Windows actually decides it wants to come back, Anyway, as soon as Windows wants to come back for me, I should be able to see everything. But you can see I am getting data. I am actually getting data right here, and I'm still getting it from OPC 02. Although, what's interesting is that this particular client thinks it's connecting to a local OPC server. So it's actually connecting to a local OPC server is what it sees. And why? Because a tunnel is connecting there. Oh, how about that? Windows is still kind of freaking out there. All right, but that's okay. That was just Windows Firewall. I think you can agree it's got nothing to do actually with OPC Expert as such. So let's go back to the demo. So again, what we saw was that we tried this connection right here. It was an OPC Decom connection. There is OPC Expert. This didn't work, so we put in OPC Expert. We ran OPC Expert here, no register changes. We ran OPC Expert, no register changes. It made all the files, put in all the files, and we started up the tunnel. So there we go, just like that. Now, for automated troubleshooting, you can download OPC Rescue. You can download OPC Expert. They will both show you data. You can diagnose your connections. You can document all your decom settings and so on. If you download OPC Expert, you'll be getting bridging, trending, you'll get tunneling, calculations. It's all embedded inside there. And of course, you will get the tunneling in there as well. So everything is included within OPC Expert. Now, for hands-on learning, you can come to one of our hands-on workshops. So at our workshops, you actually configure Decom and OPC UA. You do all of the security. So we show you exactly how to make communication work through a firewall, even with OPC Classic. So OPC Classic through a firewall, using only a very, very small number of ports, not 1,000 ports like people think. It's not thousands. It's actually using only 2 ports, which we show you exactly how to do. We show you OPC UA configuration and the certificates, the authentication, the encryption, the authorization, and so on. So we show you all of that. You learn how to properly secure your OPC systems, learn OPC best practices, and earn your certified OPC professional designation. You can go to our website and take a look at the schedule, which we have all over the world, around all over Southeast Asia, in Europe, so Western Europe, in North America, all over the place. Now, especially during this time, you hear a lot about the coronavirus. If you can't travel, consider coming to our remote classes, which we have going every month. So you can come to the class. We've been running these for quite a few years. We've got it down pat. The format is very, very similar to what you see here, where you have a live instructor. You see the you see the actual slides, and then you have two computers that are yours. And you configure them yourself, you troubleshoot the problems, you get things working, then we mess it up for you. And you have to troubleshoot it and figure out what's going on. You can get free software downloads. They're all included within, they're all included on our website. So just come down, take a look, www.opcti.com. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed the webinar. If you've survived this long, congratulations. We're going to send you an email with a link to this particular, with a link to this webinar. We'll send you a link to the next webinar, which is OPC, which is covering OPC, the Excel configuration OPC to Excel is what we'll be covering. Let's see here if Windows decided to come back. All right, so it didn't come back yet. It's actually just frozen. Let's see if it'll come back here. There we go. It was actually just a remote desktop that was having a little bit of a problem. But as I said, so there is the remote desktop. I wanted to show you that for the firewall configuration, there are the ports. Should really get rid of these. They actually just appeared here. So we'll get rid of these. These have nothing to do. There we go. So you can see two exceptions. One, remote desktop, that's what enables me to do this. And the other is a tunnel on port 5788 888. And you can see here, this is only one exception, 57888. So everything is actually going here with only one port. So there you go. We configured firewalls are actually on. No registry changes here. And of course, you can run this as a service if you want. And there you go. So we've shown the tunnels, shown you, we showed how all of this works. Come down, download it, www.opcexpert.com. We'll send you that link. And hopefully you can give it a try. And I hope to see you at the next webinar, which is OPC to Excel. Let's get back to the questions that I didn't handle yet. The questions that you were asking. So this ends the formal part of the webinar. We'll get to the informal part here.